Hello and welcome to the Christ Baptist Church devotional as we're going through the book of Genesis. We find ourselves now in Genesis chapter 34 with again the journeys of Jacob. Jacob is the son of Isaac. Jacob and his brother Esau were together. They were twins born to Isaac, and Isaac is the son of the promise coming from Abraham, where God had promised to Abraham that he would give him a large family. And when Abraham had no children, so Isaac was born when Abraham was 100 years old. And then Isaac himself had Jacob and Esau when he was 60 years old. That's a long time before you can even just have a few children. And then Jacob, through deception that took place with his in-laws, ended up with 11 children so far. Actually, he had 11 sons and one daughter. And that's what he's got right now. And he's taken them with him. And we see him on a journey. He went to his in-laws, Laban, to go there to find a wife. He found the wife. He was there 21 years being with Laban. He came back with a lot of flocks and herds, a lot of prosperity. And on the way, he was chased by Laban, and they sorted that out, put a pillar between them so they wouldn't go back and forth to each other. And he found his brother Esau coming after him, thinking, oh no, Esau's going to come after me. He's really against me. But they reconciled and came together, even though Jacob still is that deceiver. He's not been able to shed that from him, even though he changed his name, or God changed his name from Jacob to Esau, Jacob to Israel, from deceiver to God's fighter. Jacob is still a master of deceit. And now we're going to see just a very hard lesson, a very difficult lesson in Genesis 34, a difficult lesson for Jacob as well, in terms of understanding what his own character, his own past is developing. Let's take a look at Genesis chapter 34. Remember, Jacob was supposed to go back to Bethel, the place where God had made that oath to him, and he vowed to God, come back to the place. I'll bring you back to this place. That place is Bethel, where he's supposed to go. Well, Jacob ended up not going to Bethel. He ended up going to a place called Shechem, which is about 30 kilometers distant from Bethel. So he stopped 30 kilometers short. He did not go to Bethel. He should have gone to Bethel. That's where he's supposed to go. And because of his lack of obedience, and he went to Shechem instead, thinking, this is going to be good enough. It's going to cost him. And he's going to see all of the sins of how he raised his children all coming out right here. Genesis chapter 34. Here we go. Genesis chapter 34, verse 1. Now Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she had borne to Jacob, went out to visit the daughters of the land. When Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, the prince of the land, saw her, he took her and lay with her by force. There's something right here. Dinah is the daughter of Leah. Remember, Leah is the unloved. Leah is the one that Jacob really didn't care as much about. He really wanted Rachel, but he got Leah as well, and she bore him 4 children, the girl being one of them. Well, Jacob really cares about his sons, and he never really paid much attention to Dinah. But Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she had borne, then went out to visit the daughters of the land. Well, the custom of that time, which has been the custom of the time here until probably 100, 150 years ago, which is your daughters, if they're not married, don't run off and leave the tent. Daughters stay right there by their dad, staying in the community, in the tent, and they don't go. If they do go, they go with an escort. They go with a chaperone. They go with a big brother. Big brother takes care of the sister. You never let your daughters go out alone. Well, Dinah went out to visit the daughters of the land. No doubt she probably went out without telling her father or without telling her mother. I'm going to do this anyway. A willful young girl. Well, she went out there, and when Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, the prince of the land, saw her, he took her and lay with her by force. She immediately was seen as a weak person. Here's a girl, unattended, not without her big brothers, and she's without her big brothers, without her father. So Hamor, who happens to be the son of, or Shechem, Shechem is the son of Hamor the Hivite, and so he went and he lay with her by force. That means he raped her. So he basically just did whatever he wanted right there. But verse 3 tells us something a little different than what has happened whenever we see rape in the Bible, which is he was deeply attracted to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the girl and spoke tenderly to her. So instead of being violent, instead of just casting her off like a prostitute or something like that, he said, oh no, I really love this girl. He had no idea between just passion and love. He had no idea what the difference was. And so for him, he took her and lay with her by force because he was stronger. But then he said, oh, now I really love this girl. So now he's attracted. Verse 5, now Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah, his daughter, but his sons were with his livestock in the field, so Jacob kept silent until they came in. Jacob didn't say anything. Well, to Jacob, this was the daughter, which means not near as important as the sons, and it's the daughter of Leah, which is not near as important as Rachel. So he didn't have as much attention on it, and he was silent. Maybe it was that, maybe it was just his good manners, but he waited until his sons came in from the field, even though he had heard that. So he didn't jump out in rage. He didn't jump out and want to go see the father or demand that this young man have to pay for what he did. Well, while Jacob's there, and his brothers or the sons were coming in from the field, and Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to Jacob to speak with him. So here comes now Shechem's father coming out. Now the sons of Jacob came in from the field where they heard it, and the men were grieved. They were very angry because he had done a disgraceful thing in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter. But such a thing ought not to be done. So it's important to make sure that they came in and they were really, really angry simply because, their daughter got raped. They were rallying around her. The brothers cared about their sister. And such a thing ought not to be done. They knew that this was completely wrong. But Hamor spoke with them, saying, the soul of my son Shechem longs for your daughter. Please give her to him in marriage. Intermarry with us. Give your daughters to us and take our daughters for yourselves. Thus you shall live with us, and the land shall be open before you. Live and trade in it, and acquire property in it. So, regardless of how they felt, Hamor, the dad, made his pitch on behalf of his son. Soul of my son Shechem longs for your daughter. Give her to him in marriage. Intermarry with us. It's going to be great. Live with us, trade with us. The land will be open. You'll acquire property. This is exactly opposite of what God told Jacob. He said, you're going to go into the land of Canaan, and I will make you rich. I will give you all this property. I will cause you to prosper. What is Hamor saying? Come be with us. Stay with us in our community and intermarry with us. God said, you will not take a wife from the daughters of the land. You will not do that. Hamor saying, yeah, come here, stay with us, intermarry with us, and mix all in with us, and we will make you wealthy. See, that's what they're saying. That's the world. The world is saying, it doesn't matter. God can't provide for you. It doesn't matter. But I will. Hey, come mix with us. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's going to be great. So Hamor says, Shechem also said, Shechem now, the one who really loved the girl, also said to her father and to her brothers, if I find favor in your sight, then I will give you whatever you ask me, whatever you say to me. Ask me ever so much bridal payment and gift, and I will give according to you say to me, but give me the girl in marriage. He says, I'll give you a bridal payment and a gift. I'm going to do both. There's a bridal payment that we know is set and a gift. You do that, I'll do that. But just give me the girl in marriage. I just want Dinah so bad. I really am in love. But Jacob's sons answered Shechem and his father Hamor with deceit because he had defiled Dinah, their sister. Where did Jacob's sons learn deceit? They've got the master as their father. So they answered him with deceit. That means they knew exactly how to do the facial expressions. They knew exactly how to do the tone. They knew exactly how to make their pitch. And so they said, they got something in mind here. So they said to them, we cannot do this thing to give our sister to one who is uncircumcised, for that would be a disgrace to us. They don't even deal with the rape, saying, first you gotta account for what you did, buddy. I'm not saying that. What they're saying is, We can't mix with you. You're uncircumcised. That'd be a disgrace to us. Only on this condition will we consent to you. If you'll become like us, in that every male of you be circumcised, then we will give our daughters to you, and we will take your daughters for ourselves, and we will live with you and become one people. But if you will not listen to us to be circumcised, then we'll take our daughter and go. But remember, they acted with deceit. That's what it says in verse 13. This was a lie. They weren't intending to do anything of what they said. They said, you get circumcised, you become like us. They knew that God said you don't mix with the people of the land, but they were saying that that's what they would do. Now the word seemed reasonable to Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son. The young man did not delay to do the thing because he was delighted with Jacob's daughter. Now he was more respected than all the household of his father. So Hamor and his son Shechem came to the gate of their city and spoke to the men of their city, saying, now this Hamor is excited. You mean it doesn't cost a lot of money? All it costs is being circumcised? We can do that. That'll only cost us about a week of pain. We can do that. So they seemed reasonable to Hamor and Shechem. The young man did not delay to do the thing because he was delighted with Jacob's daughter. Now he was more respected than all the household of his father. So Hamor and his son Shechem came to the gate of that city and spoke to the men of their city, saying, hey, we got a great deal. So you men come gather forward. I'm going to ask you a tough question, but before I do, let me tell you what the benefit is. See, as always, tell the good news first, then the bad news. Good news first. These men are friendly with us. Therefore let them live in the land and trade in it. And behold, the land is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters in marriage and give our daughters to them. Only on this condition, here's the bad news, only on this condition will the men consent to us to live with us, to become our people, that every male among us be circumcised as they are circumcised. That's the downside. You see, the upside is they live in the land, trade, all of this. But the bad news, we got to be circumcised like they do. But let me conclude with the big statement, the big aha here in verse 23. Will not their livestock and their property and all their animals be ours? Only let us consent to them and they will live with us. See, let them live with us and then we will take their stuff. And they're very prosperous. Because once they become in-laws, once they become married in with us, all the property now belongs to the community. What a great bargain. And all it costs is circumcision. So the world is still thinking, hey, what's in it for me? How can I get this? They don't care. The world doesn't care. And so far, Jacob and his brothers are acting like the world. Verse 24, all who went out of the gate of the city listened to Hamor and to his son Shechem, and every male was circumcised, all who went out of the gate of this city. Now it came about on the third day, when they were in pain, that two of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, each took a sword and came upon the city unawares and killed every male. Simeon and Levi are two older brothers of Dinah. They were sons of Leah. Dinah's a son of Leah. Not the oldest. The oldest is Reuben. He's not prone to violence. But these two, Simeon and Levi, got their swords on and they went and they killed everybody in the city. They went in there. They're in there, and Dinah's brothers each took a sword, came upon the city unawares, and killed every male. They killed Hamor and his son Shechem with the edge of the sword, and took Dinah from Shechem's house and went forth. See, they could do it, because whenever all the men were circumcised, there's nothing they could do. They couldn't stand up, they couldn't fight, so they killed them all, unawares. And they took Dinah from Shechem's house and went forward. See, Dinah had already been taken by Shechem to live there. He had assumed she was married because they said it's only circumcision, so you can take her. So they sold their sister basically to go having to live with Shechem for a few days until they went and killed everybody, including the one who was supposed to be her husband. Dinah didn't know what was going on. The brothers put her through this. Can you imagine that? They weren't protecting her, protecting her honor. Nobody cared about Dinah. Jacob's not in there protecting her. He's using her. But Jacob didn't know this was going on. See, Jacob cared about the sons from Rachel. That's what he cared about. Well, as soon as they killed everybody and looted the city, Verse 27 says, Jacob's sons came upon the slain and looted the city because they defiled their sister. They took their flocks and their herds and their donkeys and that which was in the city and that which was in the field. And they captured and looted all their wealth and all their little ones and their wives, even all that was in their houses. So they took everything, all their loot, all their wealth, and their little ones and their wives, made slaves of them. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, you've brought trouble on me by making me odious among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites, and my men being few in number, they will gather together against me and attack me, and I will be destroyed, I and my household. Jacob didn't care about Dinah. Jacob didn't care about anything other than, now I got a bad name in the community. I mean, you've made me smell bad to everybody. Among the Canaanites, the Perizzites. And we're only few. They're going to come together against us. Look what you've done to me. That's what Jacob cares about. At least the brothers said, but should he treat our sister as a harlot? I mean, he can't do that and get away with it. The brothers were at least incensed about Dinah. Jacob, he's back to old Jacob, isn't he? He's back to old Jacob. He cares about his sons from Rachel. That's what he cares about. Because that's all he thinks is the true children of the promise. He's got a family. See, he's acting like the world. He's acting completely worldly. And where did it all begin? It all began because he didn't go to Bethel. He stopped about 30 kilometers out at a town called Succoth in verse 17 of chapter 33. He went to Succoth and he built there livestock. And then he came safely to the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan. And he bought a piece of land there. He pitched it from there of Hamor's father. So the city is actually named after the son. And so he never went to Bethel. And he stopped and he bought some land, not in Bethel, where he's supposed to be. God knew he's supposed to be in Bethel. That's where it's going to be safe. That's where you're going to go. You've been there before. Strange city, worldly city, buy land, mix with the people. And then you don't care for your daughter. You don't have enough discipline to say, Dinah, we're in a different place. Wherever you go, you make sure you take your brother Reuben with you. You make sure you take Simeon and Levi with you. You make sure you take your brothers with you because you will not go outside of the land. He didn't do that. He didn't care for his daughter Dinah. He cared about his brothers and his own prosperity. See, this is good enough. So he did not obey God. And he's now in very dangerous territory. Never saw that his disobedience costed anything. And what happened was, as the circumstances came to him, meaning his daughter got raped, he acted like the world. His brothers acted like the world. Deceitful, get revenge. It's all about our wealth. God's far from the picture here. He's not thinking about obeying God. So this is just really a messy story right here, where Simeon and Levi just go and kill a bunch of people, and they use circumcision, which is God's symbol of the covenant, which is a very sacred act of circumcision to bring people into the covenant. They use that to actually enact revenge and kill people. You want to talk about sacrilege, you want to talk about blasphemy, that would be it. Jacob's family is a huge mess because his family learned deceit from him. They learned selfishness from him. And he still doesn't see what's wrong because he didn't even take him to Bethel where he's supposed to go. He went to Shechem and bought land. And as you compromise and mix with the world, you will begin to act like the world. And you won't even know that you're disobeying God in a very big way. You won't have any idea. It starts with disobeying God and what he says to do, and you go halfway and only do a little bit. Pretty soon you're disobeying God in a very big way and you won't even know it. That's what happened to Jacob. So this messy story here, the child of the promise, still not being fully sanctified, even though his name was changed to God's fighter, is now coming and he's on his own. But because he didn't stay on the path of God, what he knew to be true, God told him, you come back to this place, Bethel. Chapter 25, verse 18. Come back here. I'll bring you back to this spot right here. Jacob says, whatever, Canaan, whatever, it's all the same. 30 kilometers outside of Bethel, it's fine. Shechem, pay money, get a land, let's mix. He's thinking, okay, we can kind of get prosperous with these people. He's not thinking be separate. He's thinking let's mix. Well, when you enter into the world, you compromise with the world and you mix, you begin acting like the world, which is extremely demonic. Raping people, killing people, taking what you want. That's the world. That's the world. The world is not looking out for anybody's best interest. The world's looking for our destruction. And the more we compromise, the more we now don't see our own sin, our own lining up with the world, and our own being against God. That's what we see here, and that's what Jacob saw here in Genesis chapter 34. Well, hopefully there's more hope in Genesis 35. We know that Jacob's going to move on and finally get to Bethel. So he's going to move on, and it's not going to kill his ministry. It's not going to take him out of the pages of Scripture because he is the child of the promise. And so we're going to see what God does with him there in Genesis chapter 35. So what we've seen in Genesis 34, when you compromise with the world, when you disobey God by not obeying fully, and you just begin to compromise in the world, you will soon be immersed in it and you will act like the world and not have any idea what you are doing at all. And even the book of James talks about this. In James chapter 4, you adulteresses, do you not know that friendship with the world is hostility toward God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. James chapter 4, verse 4. Whoever makes himself a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. Well, that's what we just saw Jacob doing right here. At the expense, largely, of his daughter Dinah, whom he really didn't care about because that's what the world says. Only care about the sons of the woman that you love. That's it. So, hard lesson for Jacob. Hard lesson. But God will always walk with him. He's paying for his sins, meaning he's getting consequences. But God will be with him continually. We'll see that in Genesis chapter 35. We'll see you then in Genesis 35.